Welcome back to the channel, and to be honest with you, I didn't expect to be doing this video so soon after my last £5 Chub Project video. If any of you watched that, thank you. It was a bit of a long one, but it was, you know, something that I was really interested in at the time and still am. Obviously with matches like not allowed at the moment, this chub fishing sort of keeping me sane, to be honest with you, and it's been really enjoyable fishing along the way as well. And I think on the end of that video, the £5 Chub Project video, I sort of said I was going to move on to bigger things now and try and catch a 6-pounder. Well, obviously because I'm making this video, I've gone and got that fish, which is like amazing, and caught it really quick too. It didn't take me long to catch it, but that doesn't take away from the work that I put in behind the scenes to try and find some fish. So just a quick breakdown of like how it's gone really. To start with, I kind of knew I needed to move on to the main river, the River Nene, or Nene as my missus calls it. She's from Northampton where we live, so they all call it the Nene round here, but I'll call it the Nene because I'm an outsider. Obviously it starts in Northampton, runs through, and it goes all the way to Peterborough. And for anybody who knows the River Nene, it's just an endless maze of backwaters and rivers and stuff, and it's just, there's back arms, back channels, and finding some fish can be a real issue, you know, and trust me, information, it's not just scarce, it's non-existent. So I think the specimen guys who fish it tend to seem to be more towards Peterborough, which at the moment is obviously out of the question. For me anyway, it's just too far to travel. So I've been looking closer to home around Northampton, and fortunately I found some fish, but again, I'm not going to actually say where I've caught these fish from, because I just don't think it's right. You know, I've put in so much effort trying to find them. I don't want to be giving you lot my spots away. So with respect, of course, I'm just going to keep that to myself, where I've been fishing. But it's in the Northampton area, that's all you need to know. And so with no info to go on, I thought, wonder if what I've learned on the small river where I fished before will translate to the big river, the River Nene. And obviously there's, like I say, there's so many areas to fish, there's so many back channels, backwaters, you name it, there's places to potentially catch chub. Now, there was a spot, I walk the river a lot with my daughter, I go down there a lot, especially in the summer, but you know, I go down there a lot. And there's a spot really close to home that I go, take her down there, we throw stones in the summer and stuff. And I remember a few years ago, I had my Polaroids on there. I was actually carp fishing it at the time, trying to catch some big carp. And I spotted this one chub in the water that just blew me away. It was huge, it's like a submarine. And never seen that fish since, before or after. But obviously it just gave me a bit of, it was all in the back of my head that this area might contain a few big fish. So obviously with that in the back of my mind, it was a great place to start. So yet again, I got on my Google Maps and Google Earth and looked at all the different areas of the river and bits like that, and looked for likely looking spots. And from what I'd learned from that previous you know, adventure on the small river, I was looking for long straights, obviously looking for fish holding spots and stuff like that, and I obviously pinpointed some areas that I thought would be good. Next phase was walking it. So again, I was taking my daughter down the river and walking up and down and just looking for spots. And I had a real good idea where I wanted to be. You know, I had a good idea of places where I thought could hold some good fish. Obviously, the first aim is just to catch some, because you just never know in these rivers where the fish are. But before I did that, this is Christmas time. So before I did that, I actually started going on Wellingborough Waters. I've mentioned them before. Great club, but great club to be a part of. And they've got a stretch at Barnwell, which this is obviously before, this is, you know, quite a while ago, December time. And they've got 2 cracking backwaters, and I really pinpointed them and thought that could be a great place to fish for, you know, for this big chub that I'm after. So I went there to this backwater and fished it 2 or 3 times, I think. Yeah, 3 times I fished it, and there was no lack of chub. It was brilliant. The fishing was awesome. Just catching really nice fish, up to sort of £4, nothing massive. Just beautiful fishing. I was catching like, well, I had one day when I had 9 out of 1 spot. That just tells you how many there were. But it just never felt like I was close to a big one. There might be some big chub in there, but I couldn't find them. And it was what I liked about the Nene bit where I've been walking my daughter. It's so close to home, I can go there regular. You know, I can keep an eye on it. I could walk it daily, no problem at all, if I wanted to. But the key was the Boundwell bit was just a little bit too far, essentially. But it was great to go and catch some fish on the River Nene. And what it did do was open my eyes to different baits. Obviously, in the last video, I spoke about bread and meat as my two options, but mostly bread. But what I have learned since moving on to the Nene is that other baits are actually needed to catch these chub. So, moved on to the River Nene and I'm catching loads of fish. And I'm catching fish on bread. But I've had one day, it was the flooded river video actually, I dropped on there and I couldn't catch them on bread, obviously it was too coloured. Meat, I had a bite on meat, but I finally caught one on cheese paste, which for anyone who goes chub fishing knows that cheese paste is brilliant, but I couldn't catch anything on it, especially on the small river that I was fishing before. It just wasn't happening for me. But then I finally got one on that cheese paste on the River Nene, and it was just sort of the confidence. It was one bite was enough to give me confidence to try it again, and then the next session the river was back down, and I caught an absolute stack. I can't remember what I caught. It was 17 or 18 chub in a day, which is obviously a brilliant session, and everything was on cheese paste. So again, my confidence was sky high. I'm chucking it in, expecting to catch one, which is everything. So once I've moved on from that spot, you know, I'm thinking I need to be closer to home for a start. So I wanted to be, you know, somewhere within sort of 10 minutes. So I was closer to home, and I'm trying to find some big fish that probably have never been caught before, because you just don't see anyone fishing down there. You know, like I say, I walk it all the time, and the only time you ever see an angler is someone lure fishing. So it's untapped potential, really, I suppose. So I'm on this River Nene and I'm walking it, and then I've pinpointed these spots that I want to fish. So the first time I fish it, I go in an afternoon. I literally got there at 3 o'clock, which, you know, it gets dark at 3:45. But I think that's not a bad thing, because it's the right time of day to catch one, and obviously it means that if there's one there or some fish in the area, you're going to know about it pretty quick. And I fished twice like that. Just afternoons, weekends, and I never had a bite. Now the water at the time was 3.7, I think it was, someone told me, further up the river. So obviously it would have varied a little bit, but it was under 4 degrees, it was cold. We'd had a load of cold weather. And the water was low, it was that snowy colour. Even though we hadn't had much snow around here, it was like a bluey colour, greeny bluey colour, and it just didn't look quite right. But I was always looking at and I didn't want to write these spots off, because I thought, well, this is like red flag. Me and Matt Godfrey used to joke about this, like when we used to go on commercials, we used to call it red flag conditions. And by that I mean, when the water gets so low, Jamie Hughes calls it rock bottom. When the water gets to rock bottom, I say that it's red flag weather. If it was on a beach, they'd stick the red flags up, you wouldn't be allowed to go in. And I felt the river was at that point, it was a red flag point. Nothing was going to be feeding. So I didn't want to write it off. Even though I expected to catch something, I didn't. I never even got a sign, and normally you get little roach nudges and stuff like that. So I've moved on. I've kept with it. I thought, do you know what? I'm going to leave it. Just leave it alone and keep an eye on the weather. Now, Matt Woods, my colleague, who is a brilliant perch angler, he's been absolutely smashing the big perch this winter. I saw it's funny what you can learn just by, you know, looking. I saw a post he put about how he knew to be there, and he looked at long range forecast, pinpointed a day or a couple of days where he thought that the weather was going to rise, low pressure, and he booked time off to suit. And I thought, do you know what? I've got a few days to spare. I'm going to do something similar, you know. And I actually texted quite a few people, Matty Dawes, Steve Ringer, a few people, even the lads at work. I texted them saying, that's my big chub. That's my day for my big chub. And it was probably 3 weeks before I actually caught this fish. And I said, that's my day. That is my day. And I booked it off work. because I've got obviously got loads of time off now to get in before March, I think it is, and told everyone that is my day, because I could see the temperature it didn't go up massive. Actually, on the day it was really cold, but it was scheduled to go up to about 8, and it never got that high. It was about 4. But the key thing, and Matt Godfrey ticked me off about this from the specimen filming that he's done with the Cordon Guru lads, is that no matter how cold it is, a rise is good. Like, as long as it's going up, then you've got a chance. I looked at the pressure. The air pressure seems to be a big part of it. That was below 1,000, so I was happy with that. The weather warm, so I got my day off, and off I went on this little chub hunt. And I caught one first chuck in. I just went in the spot, lobbed my cheese paste in, and I got one £3 first chuck in. So all of a sudden, it's totally different from the time when it was red flag conditions. I had a bite straight away, and I caught 3 out of that first spot. Nothing big, but my confidence is just booming now, and that is all you need. I'd fed a couple of spots on my way. What I like to do, I like to obviously start wherever you park, bait 3 or 4 spots on the way down, and then fish below it for a bit. Obviously let that all settle. Fish well below it for a bit, and just almost dob one, like chucking a bit of bait in, just chucking your lead around. And I got to about 10 fish before I'd even got anywhere near my baited spots. So obviously my confidence is sky high, and this is like middle of the day now, which supposedly is the worst time, but the conditions were perfect. It was one of those days that you get in winter where it never really got light. Real dull, boring day, and it just never got light. And I sort of just felt like it was good. Anyway, I've gone up to one of my pre-baited spots, and the first few never gave me a sign, which really surprised me. I thought, well, if I'm catching where I've not baited, I'm going to go on these supposedly preferred pegs that I really like pinpointed as they were my spots, and catch one. And I didn't, and I was like, oh bloody hell, this is a bit of a nightmare. I expected this to go better. But anyway, I went on this spot, big sweeping bend that went, basically it was a straight little bush on the corner, sweeping bend, so the sort of river almost went behind me like that, and I just plopped my cheese paste in under this little bush, paid out a massive bow, and I'm sure my lead was right down the corner by the time it settled, which I like that, because it sort of bumps through and then finds a home. And I just imagine in my head that that's all the little bits of bait and food and stuff must, do that, find a little home where it settles against a bit of debris or something, and I'm sure that that's where the food ends up. And my little bomb, because I'm using such a light little 2-swan link, it's just bumping along, finds a home, and then I just sit and wait. Anyway, I've sat there for a minute, and then I've just got the telltale like this. Normally you get a really big bang and then it'll go. Well, this time I'm just getting little plucks. I'm thinking, it's definitely not debris, that's a fish. Obviously I'd had a few bites, so I was looking at what to see. And I'm thinking, why is it not going this? Anyway, and it was just doing it like that for a good minute, probably, like this. And I've whacked it, I thought, I've got a strike. I've whacked it, and I've had like 4 or 5 winds before I felt anything. So I've obviously had a massive slack out, a big bow, to keep my bait in position. And I finally caught up with the fish, and all of a sudden it felt totally different. Whenever you hook them 3-pounders, they're mental. They just want to do you. They're absolute missiles. They just try get in the bank, and you've really got to arch into them and get them away from the edge. This was totally different. It went out into the middle of the river and just plodded along up the middle of the river, and I was like, this is a different beast, this is. Played it around doggedly, like you do. Got him in, and he was big. I thought, wow, this is a new PB for sure. Anyway, I've got him out, got him on the little mat, weighed him. I've got myself some like proper little passion for angling scales, the old Weighmasters. Weighed him, £5.10, so happy days. Great big fat. It wasn't very long, but he was so deep, the deepest chub I've seen. It was like a bream. It was like so deep. So I've caught him, and I'm absolutely over the moon. Like new PB, and I'm close to me target. And if I'd never caught another one that day, I'd have been more than happy, because I've caught a load of chub, and then I've caught this new PB. Slipped him back, off he went, did some pictures, slipped him back. And in my head, I'm thinking, well, I've still got probably 3 spots to go, and there's the one spot that I really, really fancy that I haven't even got to yet. So, cheers. So I'm in the back of my head thinking, I could, this could end up being a real red letter day, this could. So I've gone up to my next 2 spots, and again, no, 3 spots, my next 3 spots never gave me a bite, and I was like, oh, really gutted, because there was 2 spots in particular that it just looked perfect. A stream comes in and it pushes the flow down your own bank like that, and it's like a long deep bit, and I just thought, God, that is a fish if ever I've seen one. And I just never had a bite there. Whether it'd be better off fishing a float there, maybe. It might be better for other species, might catch some roach there maybe, but I never caught a chub there, and it was really disappointing. But then on the way back to the van, there's this one spot that it's deep. It's probably, most of the Nene where I've been fishing is not very deep. It's like 5-6 foot at most, but this one was like 8 or 9 foot. Flows down my bank again. The one thing I've learned, I don't like chucking across river. If I can find a spot down my own edge, it just seems to be better. The way I fish with my link ledger, regular casts down the inside's best. And this peg ticked all the boxes. There's not many features on the Nene. That is one thing that I struggled to get my head around at first. You're sort of looking for bends and different flow lines and stuff, and this swim was like that. It was like the flow was down the edge, but there was a definite crease, and I thought, if I just plop there, it's a bit deeper, surely that's my spot. Anyway, I flicked my bait in, my little bit of cheese paste, and it's just sat there for, and I actually take a chair now. I never used to, but I got that sick of being covered in mud, so I got myself one of the little Cora Maronian ones. They're only 2 kilos, so you can just take it with you, dead easy. Bearing in mind I'm walking several miles in a day, and I'm just sat in my chair, and I actually got my flask, got old Stanley, and I just poured myself a brew, and out of the corner of my eye it's gone whack, 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 and I thought, yes, there's one here. And I just left it, because you just got to let it, you just got to leave it. You can't be striking at that first one because you'll miss it. It's gone whack, 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 and I'm just like that with my brew, and it's just sailed around. I'm like, yes, and I hooked it, and it's done exactly the same as that previous 5 pound fish done. It's just gone kiting out into the river and just sat there doggedly, and I thought, yes, we've got another big one here. And I'm playing him, the rod's like hooped over, and I'm playing him, because you've got to play him hard. That is one thing with these chub that I've learned. You've got to just play him hard. And I've got him like this, and he's dogging around, and he's popped up, and I was like, oh my God. And I've just like scooped him up, and I've just looked at him in the net like in just disbelief. Like, that is an absolute missile. It was huge. And I'm just looking at it in the net for ages, like, oh my God, I've caught it. Like, my first proper session, I've probably got my target fish here. And I knew straight away, based on that other one, I thought, that's 6 pound, it's got to be. And I've got him out on the mat, and I've weighed him, and he was 6 pound too. And if he'd have had any sort of belly on him, or he was really wide across his back, he was like that across his back. But if he'd had any belly on him, it'd have been 7 pound, because this fish, it was so long. I wish I'd have measured him actually, because it was the longest chub I've seen by a mile. It was like a bloody baseball bat. Absolute huge fish that's got loads of, it will be a big fish, that will. If it's not too old, obviously, it'll get huge, that fish will, as long as it's, allowed to do its thing. Held it up, and I've got it, 6 pound too, I couldn't believe it. Just a huge fish. Like, I've never seen a fish like that on the bank relative to species, so God knows what a 7 and 8 pounder is. There he is, look, there he is. So just a massive fish, and I can't believe I caught it on my first proper session. So yeah, absolutely buzzing. Obviously I wasn't even bothered if I caught another one that day, but I actually did. I caught 3 or 4 more, just an outrageous session, and it just showed me that pinpointing the weather, keeping an eye on the weather, keeping an eye on all the things that are really important for this sort of specimen style fishing: weather, air pressure, water levels. Just keeping an eye on those 3 things, picking my day, and then executing it was just like, just blew my mind. So that was absolutely awesome. Honestly, I'm so happy with that. Just a quick one on tactics and bait, because like I say, the cheese paste thing has been a real eye-opener for me, because like I say, on the small river, it just wasn't the one for whatever reason. I think because you're chucking on top of the fish all the time, it's more of a visual thing. Whereas I think on the Nene, because there's no features, I don't know if the fish are necessarily there. I think you're pulling them upriver, and obviously bread isn't attractive enough. So I've had a bit of cheese paste maturing in my van. I say maturing, it's been in my tackle bag for, well, since I started this, so start of November, so a good 2 months, not been in the fridge or anything. and it stinks, and it's gone smooth and soft, and it absolutely stinks. But you can just tell it's that point now where the fish like it, because it's definitely pulling them upriver. Like, you can chuck it in the most boring looking spot, and within 5 minutes you've got a chub on. It's just, it must be deadly. So I had a few people asking actually how we make it, and there's loads of videos on YouTube, so follow one of them if you want. It's dead easy. But just a quick one on my recipe, how I've done it. I get some extra mature cheddar, grate that up. I get some Stilton, grate that up again. Don't put the rind in, because obviously you don't want any tough bits. I get a load of salt, like proper sea salt, get that in there. Don't be shy with that, I think they like the salt. Liquidized bread, put that in. Knead it all together, and then I put, the last little ingredient is a big dollop of margarine. Now on these cold days the paste goes really stiff, and that just helps it stay relatively soft. And actually I've got a new batch here, look, that I've been maturing, and because I'm obviously thinking ahead to next winter now, there's definitely that lag between making the bait and it being perfect, and I think it's like 6 weeks before it is mature enough to use, in my head anyway. So what I'm doing, I'm speeding up the process. I'll leave it on the radiator, get it all hot and soft, and then leave it, and then I'll put it on the radiator, and I'm trying to like speed the process of it, whatever it is doing. That's smelling beautiful. You can smell it through the bag, so smelling nice that is. And then when I get it to a state where I'm happy, I'm going to shove it in the freezer and forget about it until next winter, so that come November next year, when I want to do a bit of chub fishing again, I can just get it out and it's ready. I don't have to wait for it to mature. So yeah, anyway, so I mash it all up and just knead. I spend ages kneading it so it's super smooth, and then it's ready. I know other anglers put some like garlic in it, which I'm sure would work brilliantly. Sonia Bates do like a cheesy garlic oil that loads of people have tipped me off about. I'll probably experiment with that a little bit as well, and that would obviously, with it being an oil, might even mean that you don't have to add the marge to it, maybe, I don't know. So that would be worth a try as well. I think Angling Direct do a nice little video showing you how to make it. So, but the biggest game changer was a little tip that I saw Martin Bowler doing, and he makes a little floater cake, so a little tiny like a tray bake, a crap cake basically. He makes it out of boiling mix, but I made mine out of just a crap cake mix that I made myself. Can't even remember what I did. I put like flour, eggs, butter. No, I didn't put any butter in, salt and sugar and that. And I baked it, and it didn't rise at all, but it was perfect. It got to about a centimetre, and then formed a crust on it, which was exactly what I wanted. Then I chopped it up into little tiny bits, like 1 centimetre bits. And what I do, exactly how Martin Bowler shows you in his YouTube videos and on his social media and stuff, hook that on, a little piece, and then mould like a smidgen of cheese paste to it. And you just get it so it's like a wafter basically. Like, you just drop it in the edge and it just sinks really slow. And that was my biggest problem before. I think with the bread, it flutters, whereas the cheese paste that I was using before was so heavy, it just wasn't happening. And I did this Martin Bowler trick with a floater cake, and honestly, it's been a game changer. So anyone who wants to give it a try, I think you put in Martin Bowler chub fishing on YouTube, and there's a video, it's just a short one, and he shows exactly how he does it. And that advice that he gives in that video is dead right. Everything he says in that video is dead right. So yeah, bit of a long-winded one again, but we've caught it, that 6-pounder that I was after. Thanks for everyone who's watched these sort of chubby videos. It's not everyone's cup of tea. I appreciate that. Match fishing is what we all do, but in this lockdown period now, especially, but certainly before lockdown, when I was fishing for these chub a lot, it was a real nice thing to be doing, and the fact that a few thousand of you have been interested in it is nice. So I put a post on last week asking for ideas about videos, so loads of you got in touch about that, things I can do in here, so I don't have to go out, because I'm not actually, obviously we're not meant to be going out as much now. So I'll get on with that. There's a few real good ones that came up as well that I really like the idea of, so I'll get on with them. I'll try and do a few of those in the evenings this week. But in the meantime, thanks everyone for watching, thanks everyone for subscribing. I'll overlay some pictures of these magnificent fish we've been catching, and thank you very much. I think obviously my next target is a 7-pounder, which I thought the 6-pounder was a fish of a lifetime, to be honest with you. So a 7-pounder, oh my god. I think that will be harder to come by than the old 6-pounder. So, but we'll keep trying. Obviously the river's local, so I can still fish it. It's not a problem with fishing it in the lockdown rules. So, but it's gone cold again now. The river's high again at the moment, so I'm just going to bide my time, and again I'm just going to study the weather, and if I get a chance with the right levels and the temperature spiking, then I'll give it a go again and see what we can catch. But in the meantime, thanks everyone, and we'll see you again soon.